We spend a lot of time thinking about and defining messaging, including taglines, campaigns, presentations, and websites. If you look at these things structurally, you'll realize they all have one thing in common. They're all made up of words. And that might suggest that powerful language is the best way to communicate. But we all know the old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if that's true, perhaps the most revealing language in your business isn't necessarily what you say, but what you display. But first, a story. I've been told I have very expressive eyebrows. I've never known whether I should take that as a compliment or not, but I've learned it's certainly true. I discovered this back when I was a talking head on television. A producer I worked with pulled me aside and said, "Want to know why we invite you back? You give good eyebrow." That was her exact phrase, and it was not what I expected to hear. You see, my ego had assured me that they kept inviting me back because I was eloquent, erudite, and enlightening. But here was a big New York producer telling me it wasn't that at all. I was dumbfounded. So she continued. She explained that if someone was sitting in a bar watching TV with the sound off or scrolling through clips on their phone without audio, they could still tell I was saying something meaningful by watching my face, or more specifically, my eyebrows. And my message would break through even without words. But the real lesson didn't come from that studio. It came from my office. Sometimes I'd overhear the people I worked with using a word I didn't quite understand, knitting, as in, be careful, he's knitting, or watch out, there's some knitting going on. Apparently, when I get annoyed, my eyebrows crash together and touch in the middle, forming a heavy black slash that looks like a unibrow. The people around me noticed, and they joke about it, moving their fingers like they were crocheting a sweater, saying knit one, purl two, to warn each other that I was in a bad mood. Somewhere along the line, eyebrows stopped being a noun and became a verb. And that shift from noun to verb, from description to action, is what I call a verbit. A verbit is a word that evolves inside a group to carry a specific shared meaning. It's not in the dictionary, and you won't find it in your brand guidelines, but everyone on the inside knows exactly what it means. When a team turns a word into a verbit, they're compressing beliefs, priorities, and expectations into a single, efficient signal. And they're telling you what it is they value. Most leaders spend their time trying to define culture from the top down. They write mission statements, craft value propositions, and hold alignment meetings. But verbits don't come from strategy decks. They come from behavior repeated often enough to earn its own shorthand. If you really want to understand your culture, listen to the language your people create and use when you're not in the room, because that's where the truth lives. Verbits are the purest expression of what your organization actually does, not what it says it does. If you can identify the verbits in your business, you can see what's working, what's valued, and what's being reinforced every day without anyone having to write it down. You can also see what's missing. No verbit for collaboration? That tells you something. No shorthand for customer empathy? That tells you even more, because language is never neutral. It always reflects priorities. If you want to build value, real value, the kind that people feel and respond to, you have to pay attention to the signals your own team is already sending. Not the ones you wrote and hung in the conference room, but the ones they invented, because those are the ones they believe. And in the end, belief is the only thing that ever builds a brand. The language within your organization shapes your brand every day. The question is whether you're guiding it or reacting to it. And that's the work I do with leadership teams. If you're planning a conference or a leadership meeting and want your audience to understand how to build a brand people believe in, let's talk. I'm currently booking a limited number of keynote presentations for the rest of 2026.